Tonight, local reaction to a police ambush near Ottawa that left one officer dead and two others injured.
This happened so many times this year and last year in the latter part. It's tragic.
What the Toronto Police Association is saying about the OPP officer's death, becoming the fifth Ontario police officer to die in the line of duty since this past September.
He said, we're going to take everything in here, and we're like, okay, because I don't want to risk anything, right? Because he had the gun.
Plus, a brazen midday robbery at a sneaker shop caught on camera. What police are saying when asked if it's connected to another alleged retail robbery in the downtown.
We're the first team in TDSB history, so it's nice making history.
And how these high school football players made Toronto history today. We'll show you what these Trailblazers are hoping will be their next touchdown. Good evening, I'm Chris Glover. Ontario's policing community is mourning the loss of one of their own tonight. An OPP officer was killed early this morning just east of Ottawa while responding to a call. In the last 6 months, 4 other Ontario police officers have lost their lives in the line of duty, including right here in the GTA. Just days ago, their names were added to the Ontario Police Memorial at Queen's Park, and that's where Tyler Cheese joins us live tonight. Hey there, Tyler. How have people been reacting to this latest tragedy?
Well, Chris, this has had a huge impact on the policing community. Earlier tonight, I was at this year's Police Excellence Awards, an event meant to celebrate Toronto police officers for their heroism, but the evening started with a tribute to those fallen officers.
If you are able, I would ask that you please rise in an act of remembrance to all of those that have given their lives so that others could remain safe, and as a specific act of remembrance for Sergeant Eric Mueller.
Ontario's policing community abruptly rejigging the opening of an annual awards banquet in Toronto with yet another desperate search for answers after the death of OPP Sergeant Eric Mueller while on duty near Ottawa.
There's something going on this year, whether it's been kind of the fallout from the pandemic. I really have no idea. We've never seen so many police homicides in my entire 35 years.
Just after 2 a.m. this morning, Sergeant Mueller and 2 other officers responded to the sound of gunshots called in by a citizen. When they arrived on the scene, police say the 3 officers were ambushed and shot. Mueller, a 21-year veteran of the force, was killed. Police say a 39-year-old suspect was arrested at a home not far from the crime scene. The 2 other officers were taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Still, the policing community is in shock again.
It's happened so many times this year and last year in the latter part. It's tragic.
This past September, Toronto Constable Andrew Hong was also shot and killed in an ambush attack. His death was followed by the killing of South Simcoe officers Morgan Russell and Devin Northrup the following month. Then in December, OPP Constable Greg Piershala was killed responding to a vehicle in the ditch near Hagersville.
Tragically, this year, we've added 5 names to the memorial wall. And it's just devastating that next year we now have to add another name.
Our policing community is again in mourning.
The president of Ontario's Police Association says each shift officers leave their families to protect others, and their lives should be protected too.
It's senseless, and we're just really struggling to come to grips with it as a community.
Some say this latest death will renew their push for legislative reforms.
We have to make sure that we strengthen bail laws, strengthen particularly issues with firearms, particularly illegal firearms as well that come into the country.
The Ontario Police Association says while officers in the province are very highly trained, no level of training can prepare them for an ambush. Still, they say they are committed to finding solutions, and tonight their focus is on mourning the death of Sergeant Mueller. Chris?
Certainly a major focus for a lot of us in this province tonight. Thank you, Tyler. An update now on a fatal shooting in Etobicoke from yesterday. A 34-year-old Toronto man has been arrested and charged after a woman was killed. Police were called to a condo building near Manitoba Street and Legion Road North for reports of unknown trouble. Officers say residents heard sounds of a violent interaction, followed by a loud bang. After security guards investigated, they found a woman who had been shot, and while first responders tried to save her, she died on the scene. Police say they are not publicly identifying the victim right now. And a daytime robbery in Scarborough has a business owner warning other shops to be on alert. The owner says on Monday, 3 men who appeared to have a gun crashed the store and ran off with around $10,000 worth of merchandise. As Talia Ricci shows us, it's not the only sneaker shop to get robbed recently.
It was early afternoon on Monday when 3 men walked into a Scarborough sneaker shop and left with $10,000 in clothing.
We left the door open like we usually do. These 3 younger age people came in with masks. We couldn't see their face, like it's just their eyes, their eyebrows, and that's it. And then the first guy that came in had it looked like a gun under his cloth. And as soon as he walked in, he told us to go to the back.
The co-owner of Heat Check Toronto says 2 of the men then shoved as much as they could into bags. They also tried to take cash from the register, but there wasn't any kept on site.
He said, we're gonna take everything in here, and we're like, okay, because I don't want to risk anything, right? Because he had the gun, picked up a bunch of clothing, ran out the door, and then we actually found out the car was stolen. So we got the license plate, but we couldn't do anything with it.
CBC Toronto also spoke with the owner of a sneaker shop downtown who says he was also robbed at gunpoint 3 weeks ago. Toronto police say both robberies are under investigation but haven't confirmed whether they're related. Police also said holdups at retail stores are down this year compared to this time last year.
You work so hard for what you have, and then these people just come out of nowhere and just start taking everything. It's sad. Like, I don't want to see it happen to another sneaker store. So we have brand new shoes.
Francisco Vinas says it's been a challenging week, especially as a new business owner.
We just have a glass case in here. This is where all of our expensive shoes are.
The shop opened just last year. Now they keep the door locked until a customer shows up. But after posting about it on social media and getting thousands of shares and people reaching out, he's also reminded of how supportive his customers are.
It shows the love we have in this community.
Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
A lot of love in the community right now for the weather. Here's a live look at the skyline. Still 20 degrees and a long way off from tonight's low of 13. Colette joining us for a first look at weather. And Colette, what an incredible end to the work week.
Yes, this is a pretty nice way, Chris, to be wrapping up the week. I know it's only Thursday, but we're getting there. And we're going to have similar conditions, frankly, into our Friday. But some of the daytime highs reported today, you see lots of readings there that poked up to 26 degrees, including for Toronto. And still looking at that ridge of high pressure, that hasn't changed. Where we're seeing some subtle changes, you probably noticed, what's this, that green stuff? Yes, remember rain showers. Well, along a little frontal boundary there, trying to kind of make their way into the province along the border with Quebec there. So a stray shower into eastern Ontario. That's one feature to look at. Then Friday, we start off with dry conditions for the lower Great Lakes. Now things will change a bit for southwestern Ontario as we get towards the afternoon. Some increase in cloudiness and a chance for some showers. That becomes enhanced overnight Friday into Saturday morning. So I'm going to go into more detail on that when I come back here. For tonight, 13 for the low. The sunrise up before 6 a.m., so that temperature soars pretty quickly. 26 for the high, and yes, a very high UV index. You got to remember that part as well.
Yeah, good point, but I am loving these good long days. Thanks, Colette. And that beautiful weather might have you thinking about heading someplace like High Park this weekend. And tonight's significant news for the popular destination. City councillors voting to keep High Park closed to cars on weekends and holidays. Eventually, cars may be permanently banned from the West End Park. As Ali Chiasson reports, some of the exchanges in council chambers today were as hot as the weather right now.
It was a beautiful day in High Park. Cherry blossoms, puppies, tulips. Contrast that with the finger-pointing, eye-rolling, and yelling in council chambers about phasing out car access in High Park.
How does your motion get them into the park on the weekends?
So, first of all, they're able to go to the park Monday through Friday. Okay, so the park
how did your motion get them into the park on the weekends?
I know you're very excited to have people paying attention to you, but perhaps instead you can try to listen.
High Park is in Gord Perks's ward. He is championing a pilot project to keep High Park closed to cars on weekends and statutory holidays, with the eventual goal of it going completely car-free. Those opposed to this idea say banning cars makes it less accessible to people with mobility issues, seniors and families with strollers, picnic gear, etc. Councillor and mayoral candidate Anthony Perruzza went as far as to say Perks is killing the dreams of Little League teams that need to drive to the park with equipment.
The interesting thing, Councillor, is that city staff have throughout this been consulting with that little, asked me a question.
Councillor,
Holy heck.
Councillor, that was your last question.
Holy heck. Are we here to solve problems or are we here to grandstand?
Despite the contention from Perruzza and other councillors who want to keep their parks accessible by car.
Keep your eyes off Centennial Park next time, because I won't be letting this through, unlike the local councillor.
Council would eventually vote 18-7 to approve the plan to start closing roads and improving cycling infrastructure.
Cars don't go to the park to enjoy the park. People go to the park to enjoy the park.
It's a big win for the Car-Free High Park Coalition, who point out how this decision helps the city achieve its other goals like net zero emissions and pedestrian safety.
It's a direction that supports our Vision Zero goals. It supports our Transform TO goals. It supports our Active TO goals. When the city makes these commitments, they need to make changes in order to meet these commitments, and this is one of the changes that should be a very easy one to make, and I'm very happy to see that they did make it.
So this is going to be implemented in phases. First, you'll see barriers go up and signage telling you which roads are closing when. And at the same time, the city is working on developing an all-hours shuttle service to get people into the park who rely on vehicle access. An example of that would be these Little League players who unexpectedly got a lot of airtime today. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
Speaking of city politics, on the mayoral campaign trail today, Olivia Chow says if she becomes Toronto's next mayor, she will immediately begin to tackle the issue of homelessness.
As mayor, the first thing I would do is to open up respite centers, drop-in centers, access centers, whatever you want to call them. Because when you become homeless, the first thing you're in crisis mode. You don't know what to do. You're scared.
Chow says those centers would be open 24/7, and she said she would also make 1,000 units of housing available using existing buildings. The rent for those units would be subsidized by the city, she says.
I will provide for the next 2 years $50 million in annual increase for the multi-unit residential acquisition program drawn from the city's land acquisition reserve.
And candidate Mitzi Hunter is proposing a way to keep multi-unit residential properties on the market. Hunter pointing out some landlords sell these buildings when the upkeep is too costly or when they reach retirement age. To prevent this, she says the city will use funds to purchase, renovate, and operate some properties. Hunter also plans to expand a program that helps to keep people from being evicted. She'd also triple the city's rent bank funds to $15 million.
Mayor, I will launch a pilot of mobile red light cameras in school safety zones. These new lights are by default red and only turn green when drivers are going on or at below speed limit.
Meanwhile, Anna Bailau says she will budget $1 million to pilot this technology she's just talking about in the city. As well, she wants to increase and automate the enforcement of fines for drivers who illegally pass streetcars when riders are getting on and off. She says she'll use the existing exterior cameras on streetcars to do it.
Triple the fines for those who think they can ignore no parking signs during rush hour. Deploy 200 traffic wardens to tackle choke points during rush hour and major events, and ticket and fine people who block major intersections.
And Mark Saunders talking today about how he'd tackle traffic congestion in Toronto should he become mayor. Saunders would also create special zones for delivery trucks that would be placed on side streets. He also wants the city to stop granting lane blocking permits for downtown construction. Now, Saunders also wants to appoint a city staff member to oversee coordination of roadwork, transit, and utility. Welcome back. In just a few weeks, big soft drink companies plan to start charging recycling fees on every non-alcoholic drink container produced in Ontario. Now, what's not clear is whether you'll see those fees tacked on at the checkout or buried into the sticker price. As our senior reporter Mike Crawley reports, the benefits for the environment are also unclear.
The fees would apply to every can of soda, bottle of water, or carton of juice sold in Ontario. It's not the government imposing the fees. Rather, it's the beverage industry. an association representing big drinks companies such as Coca-Cola and PepsiCo. It's happening because the industry now has to foot the bill for dealing with its waste products. The fees would take care of that.
If they get us to pay the costs of trying this blue box system, they got nothing to lose, really. It's really Ontarians and the environment that have the most to lose with what they're planning.
The fees planned by the industry? 1 cent on each aluminum can, 2 cents on plastic bottles up to 500 milliliters, and 3 cents on larger plastic containers, glass bottles, drink boxes, or cartons. It might not sound like a lot, but it will add up. The beverage companies expect they'll collect $80 million a year. The owners of smaller grocery stores in particular aren't happy.
When your margins are so low in grocery, the nickels and pennies and the dimes, they do matter.
The major supermarket chains are trying to negotiate with the industry to lower the fees or even get them scrapped.
Our members don't have the leverage to be able to push back at some of the bigger beverage companies in this province to say we're not paying the fee.
Ontario's Environment Minister had previously said he would block the beverage companies from imposing the fees, but under the current law, he doesn't actually have the power to do that. So now he's merely asking the industry not to pass the costs on to consumers. The province has ordered the beverage industry to hit a target of recycling 80% of its containers by 2030. Right now, less than half gets recycled. That means an estimated 1.7 billion plastic bottles going to Ontario's landfills or incinerators every year. What environmental groups would prefer? A deposit return system, like the one run by the beer store.
It almost reduces litter from beverage containers to nothing, which is really key for our public and natural spaces.
The beverage industry's fees are due to kick in June 1st. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
Now to some history on the football field to tell you about. For the first time in Toronto, an all-girls high school tackle football team played in a game today. Greg Ross got a front row seat.
The new girls tackle football team at Western Tech started practicing for the first time less than 2 months ago. Today, they got their first taste of game action.
I almost puked earlier, but I'm good now.
Cairo Gregory plays center for Western Tech. She admits she was feeling the butterflies before starting her first game.
I just got nervous. It's like, I feel like everyone else here has played for a while, or at least a little bit before us, so we're all new to it. It's a new team.
We're the first team in TDSB history, so it's nice making history.
Quarterback Avery Medeiros has thrown many touchdowns in practice. Today, she learned what it feels like to throw one in a game.
It was such an amazing feeling, and just having everyone cheering in the background and supporting you is honestly a very nice feeling.
Football Ontario hosted 4 all-girls tackle football teams today in a series of exhibition games at York University.
So we have St. Benedict's from Sudbury, we have St. Joe's and St. Mark's from Ottawa, and we have Western Tech from the GTA.
While there is still no high school tackle football league for girls, the hope is to have one in place soon, which would be great news for Tegan Roy, who goes to St. Mark's in Ottawa.
When I first started, I played with the grade 9 team at my school.
She started playing 2 years ago on the boys team. Now that there's a girls team, she's helping to pave the way for others who want to play.
I'm so excited for them. I trying to hype them up as much as possible. I'm like, yeah, get on that field. So it's so fun to see new people come out.
This summer, these girls will have somewhere else to go if they want to play more than just exhibition games.
The first ever women's league in the province will kick off on May 20th. 10 teams in 2 different age groups will compete in the Ontario Women's Football League.
It's a provincial league for U19 and U16 girls across the province to compete. So they play about a 6-game season with 2 playoff games.
Football Ontario will also host the National Women's Football Championships in Ottawa later this summer. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Ending the night on a cute note for you, 6 fluffy little lion cubs have become the star attraction at a zoo in Pakistan. And it's easy to see why people are flocking to get a glimpse of those sweet faces. The babies were born to 2 separate lionesses and are about 2 to 3 months old. The cubs are proving very popular with visitors, many returning again and again to watch them romp in their little pen. All right, Colette, let's finish the show off with a bang and this amazing weather forecast.
Well, Chris, yeah, let's take a look kind of at what's happening with this ridge of high pressure that we've been talking about and the heat. Obviously, today a little warmer than it's been, and tomorrow similar conditions. So we're going to see our temperatures kind of either peaking today or tomorrow or both days similar, like in the case of Toronto, in terms of what we'll have for those daytime highs. Do want to just mention what's happening in parts of Western Canada. The heat is going to be building this weekend back into Alberta. Obviously not good with the forest and grass fire situation there, but also really building into BC again. Has some people on edge after what happened in 2021. This is not the same. And also the timing that it's mid-May instead of happening end of June to early July will help that situation somewhat, but still going to pose problems there for sure. All right, back to what's happening for us. Showers return sparingly. I mentioned earlier a few sprinkles into eastern Ontario tonight and then into tomorrow into Saturday morning, a chance in southwestern Ontario, but pretty much all around. It's looking good for Mother's Day in terms of that forecast. So let's roll you through things. We see that feature leave along that frontal boundary. Then this is trying to come through. A stray shower tomorrow afternoon in the Windsor area, not out of the question, but it's way more likely that overnight Friday into early Saturday, we do get into some wet weather there. And then it moves through and begins clearing out. That ridge of high pressure is strong and it pushes back. And so even into the afternoon, seeing that moving on and then drier conditions in the evening. Now, those overnight temperatures are certainly on the mild side, even as they fall towards those lows that we're reaching around 5, 6 a.m. I mean, the sun's getting up before 6, so temperatures warm up pretty quickly. But you're looking at readings like this, very hard to find a single digit in there. Chatham-Kent, a low around 9 degrees, probably around more like 12, 13 for Toronto there. And then tomorrow back up to 26, 22 on Saturday. And yes, there's a slim chance for showers on Mother's Day, but more so I think you'll notice that the temperatures do come down a little bit.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Colette. And thank you for watching. That's our show for tonight. Maribel Tarouk has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6, and we're off the air tomorrow at 11 because of NHL playoffs. You can catch the Leafs game right here on CBC television at 7 o'clock as they try to stay alive. Have a great night, everyone.